Hello, Internet. This is Chase Wassenaar, and welcome to the Rough Drafts Competes Journey of Wrestling League. It is a special episode today, ladies and gentlemen, because we have our first tournament. That's right. This is a tournament that will see a bunch of tag teams going head-to-head within the Stamford Wrestling Alliance. And for this, I knew I needed to have my good friend and head of the Stamford Wrestling Alliance, Walter C80's Fedchuck, here with me. Walter, how you doing tonight?
You know, Chase, it's been about a week and a half since I came back from Los Angeles, and since then it has snowed 3 different times, and we found a dead body in one of our local water reservoirs. Just Rochester, New York things. But I am happy to say that dead body was not mine, and that this is my way of getting back into our journey of wrestling competition by being the first person to do a tournament.
Absolutely. Now, this is a very fun setup here. It's the first time any of us are doing this, so we're going to learn some things together with the audience. But the key that the audience needs to know, 16 tag teams have entered. The winner is going to get a title shot at an upcoming pay-per-view Winter Zone. I believe that's going to end the competitive year. And we have the semifinals and finals to be saved for the Harold G. Vincent Memorial Cup, which is the main gold pay-per-view that will be part of our stream on Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Walter, before we jump into these matches, what should the folks at home be looking for? What are the key storylines that have the fans excited to see how this is going to shake out tonight?
Well, the overall storyline here is that the Harold G. Vincent Memorial Cup is a cup dedicated to the founder of the SWA, Harold G. Vincent. And, since the beginning, we have been very focused on trying to provide the best tag team 2-on-2 wrestling out of the 4 companies, which I'm gonna be honest, I do think that I have the strongest tag team division as well as the strongest narrative division out of our 4 competitors. This is not copium. This is not me being a heel and creating my own belt like Ted DiBiase, I swear to God. But with that being said, we have a very interesting lineup here for you tonight. The first thing I want to say is that at any point, if you see the game give you a seed number, that number is probably incorrect. The game decides that they want to seed the tag teams by probably their average popularity of the 2 competitors within them. Exactly. That's wrong. I have my own bracket over here that I built. Some important things to remember. Up in the top half of the bracket, we very obviously have as the number 1 seed, the champions, Hollywood Bound. And we have both tag teams from the lads on that side of the bracket, including a new tag team that was created just for this pay-per-view, the Irish Lads. That is going to be Patty Gilman and Craig Opley. They will be facing Strong Style, which is the tag team from Made in Japan, a tag team I had a lot of big plans with way back when, and then Shohei Hirano got injured. But him and Kenzo Nye are out here. They are fighting for Made in Japan and hoping to knock off either the Irish Lads or perhaps even, if they get past them, Neon Wings, and cripple their chances not only at the tag team belts, but also at that 4v4 match that's going to be happening at the Harold G. Vincent Memorial Cup. Or maybe one of those 3 tag teams are going to have to pull double duty. In the bottom half of the bracket, I think the big thing here are 2 of the top competitors for I'd say 3 of the top competitors for Hollywood Bound's crown. That's going to include Pocket Rocket, Prodigious, and the former champions in Down Under. But there's also a couple of other new tag teams that have formed down there. First, the tag team of Drew King and Jules Murphy, while they are waiting the results of that elimination match at the Harold G. Vincent Memorial Cup to determine whether Jules Murphy or Daniel Stevenson will be challenging Christopher Devlin in the main event. Drew King has continued to try and uphold his promise to Jules Murphy of showing him the opportunities that the Kingdom can provide him now that he has joined them from the lads. And the other tag team to really look out for against Eat Our Dust in the opening round, the new Gaston brothers, Cobra Gaston and Colton Scribner.
Absolutely. There's some really fun tags. I like the new teams you formed. And I have to ask this because I've been curious about it. And unlike most of these streams, right, where typically I am the collector of knowledge as the one who needs to click the buttons, it is useful for me to know what buttons I am meant to click at these events. I don't know what's going to happen here tonight. I am just as new to this as you are, lovely viewers at home. So, out of curiosity, what happens if Hollywood Bound win this tournament? Or do they get a title shot against themselves? Is it a guarantee to not have to defend at Winter Zone? How does that work?
No, so for the viewers at home and for Chase, who is here right now, I am stealing the G1 Climax, which is New Japan's heavyweight tournament that happens leading up, kind of in the late winter, leading into the beginning of the year, fall into winter, leading into their big show at the beginning of the year. That is Wrestle Kingdom. That usually happens the very first weekend of January. And the thought with the G1 is that you have 4 groups of 4, and all of them wrestle each other in a round robin. And then there's an 8-man bracket, and the person that wins that 8-man single elimination tournament, they have the right to challenge for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. There has been times when the IWG World Heavyweight Champion has won that tournament. Kazuchika Okada is probably one of the most famous ones of them, and they then get to choose their opponent for Wrestle Kingdom. So sticking in mind with that, if Hollywood Bound wins, they will then get to choose their opponent for Winter Zone. I would even offer them the opportunity to, pick whatever stipulation they wanted. If they wanted a best out of 7 falls match, by all means, Hollywood Bound, you are the champions, and I do feel like I should give you some sort of one up. If they just wanted to pick, Baja Lucha and say, we're going to face Baja Lucha, and the only way they can beat us is they have to do the hokey pokey, run 10 miles, come back and pin one of us before a 3 count, right? It could be something absolutely ridiculous, but that is kind of their right by winning the Harold G. Vincent Cup.
Well, there you go. The stakes could not be higher. I'm very excited to get into it. So without further ado, let's hit that button. We start round of 16, Hollywood Bound versus the Catering Crew. This is one of the new tags. Who are the Catering Crew, and what are they going to need to do to upset Hollywood Bound tonight?
So the Catering Crew is Chase's favorite lovable loser, Kevin Bates, and Virginia Warbler. I will say one of the things is, despite me really kind of pushing our tag team division, I didn't quite have 16 tag teams ready for this tournament. So I kind of asked around. I went to a couple of the factions. That's why we got the Irish Lads. That's why we have the New Gaston Brothers. That's why we have Kingdom Come. And I thought I needed one more. And I bumped into Kevin Bates. I said, hey, Kevin, listen, I know I keep relying on you for sort of these last minute things. I know you like a paycheck. How would you like to be part of the Harold G. Vincent Cup? And he said, well, Mr. Fedchuk, I'd fucking love that. I just don't have a tag team partner. I said, listen, I'll give you to the end of the day. Go scrounge around the locker room, see if you can find somebody willing to tag with you. He ran into Virginia Warbler. Virginia Warbler said, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be part of the tournament. I'd love to get my hands on those tag team belts, or maybe even against one of the Scribner brothers again. And I said, okay, cool. You guys are in the match. And then the funny thing is, 10 minutes later, Baja Lucha called me and said, hey, boss, yeah, we're super excited for the tournament. And I realized I had 17 tag teams, not 16. So Baja Lucha, I owe you guys one. Maybe if you were a little bit better, I would have included you instead of Catering Crew. But Catering Crew is the number 16 seed on my bracket, facing the champions in Hollywood Bound, who have been champions for a number of months now, ever since they defeated Down Under in that 4-way match back at I believe it was Mayhem, possibly, if I remember my lore correctly. Yep, it was back at Mayhem, so quite a few months since they won those belts. And obviously, as the number 1 seed and as members of Dominatus Tenebris, they just gotta keep doing their thing.
Yeah, I mean, their thing has worked for them so far. The question is, does it continue to work tonight, or does the Catering Crew pull off the biggest upset in SWA history?
No, it's Hollywood bound. Listen, I appreciate catering crew, putting their all into this. The one thing you kind of do get is sometimes you just have some jobbers, and Hollywood bound, they're going to be slightly disappointed by that. But at the end of the day, they're the champions. I don't want to put them against the number 2 seed to start the night off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they've got plenty of morale to spare. Meanwhile, catering crew, I'm sure it means a lot to them to be included, get a chance to highlight their talents in front of the best tag team in your company and in front of the large crowd that has gathered here tonight to watch it happen. So I think it's a win for both sides, and we start with a nice 3 3/4 star match. But we now go on the Profits and the Killers, and if I'm correct, Walter, these two have been feuding back and forth for a while now.
Yes, these two have feuded multiple times. I believe they've probably had 3 matches at this point, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
The Killers have not been around for a while, much like the other members of Short, ever since their victory back at Beach Break, right after after Ethan Wilde defeated Daniel Stevenson. Chart has kind of been on a hiatus. Wesley Lee Morris came back during the weekly earlier this week, lost hilariously to Chase. Mm-hmm. So now Chase has a chance at the men's championship that Ethan Wilde holds. And the Profits, they continue to be pretty good performers, right? They show up when I need them to. They put on some good matches. I know they're probably not as happy as they could be in the promotion, and maybe it's that I need to spend a little bit more time on some of my lower mid card guys, getting some more interactions between them, building up some more of these kind of lower level feuds, and giving them all more opportunities to show that they deserve to be in the upper ranks. But in this 9-8 matchup, the Killers are going to take the win. They will once again defeat the Profits here in 2-on-2 combat. Looks like it was an absolutely fantastic match.
Yeah, this is the banger that you get when you have two teams who know how to work together and play off each other's strengths. It's an overness boost for everybody, which pushes Enlightened Crews into the starting to get over territory, which I have to imagine would be huge. You'd much rather have a 4-3 than a 3-2 at the end of the day. Morale boost for each, and of course, a 4 3/4 star match with a cool spots bonus is exactly why you want to tune into a tag tournament like this. That does mean that it will be Hollywood Bound versus the Killers in the next round. Hold on. Well, let's hit the continue button. Yes, it will be Hollywood Bound versus the Killers. It does work the way we wanted. If they reseeded based on numbers, that would have been really frustrating. So I'm glad it works the way. I'm glad it works the way we thought it did. But we move on, and this one, lots of different feuds coming into play here. Because this is Made in Japan versus the Lads, a feud that has been highlighting so many of your weekly shows recently, with Strong Style versus the Irish Lads. I mean, how much is at stake here, Walter? Because these two factions do not like each other even a little bit.
Well, Chase, here's the thing, Craig Opley defeated Kenzo Nye a couple of days ago on our last weekly in a gimmick match decision on a pole match. That means that the Lads have the determination of what gimmick the Lads and Made in Japan will be fighting under here at the Cup. And I can confirm to you, Craig Opley has told me they will be fighting inside of a steel cell. They don't want Made in Japan to be able to get away from them. This will also potentially thrust Craig Opley into that Intercontinental Championship picture against Heizo Ogawa. And Strong Style, they're kind of pissed off here. They're pissed. Kenzo Nye is pissed off that he lost to Craig Opley a couple of days ago. They are pissed off that Shohei Hirano's homecoming, his return from injury, was then one-upped by Craig Opley returning after his hiatus when he lost to Ethan Wilde. There is a lot of bitter blood that has been built between these two factions, and both of them would love the opportunity to prevent the other from getting a tag team title shot guarantee.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my most exciting matches in the opening round for sure. You've made it very clear both Craig Opley and Shohei Hirano returning has changed the dynamic of your company, of the feuds that we are experiencing. And honestly, I could see you going either way on this. It's just great competitors on both sides. Who got the nod tonight?
Well, In this match, it will in fact be strong style. Talia Adler being that extra body on the outside, giving Patty Gilman and Craig Opley a little bit of pause. It is a little concerning that Connor Cretin did not come out with his fellow lads, but he is going to be coming out here in the next match with Neon Wings. He didn't really want to pull double duty, and he had promised Neon Wings, weeks ago, he was really going to focus on them, trying to be a manager for them, trying to be a mouthpiece for them, and getting them to that next level. And unfortunately, that means the extra body out there around the ring gets strong style the win here.
Yeah, I mean, look, Irish lads have never wrestled before as a duo in this context, so it makes sense to me that strong style ultimately gets the nod. It's a nice morale boost for them. No hit to overness or morale for the Irish lads, so I kind of think it's a best case scenario outside of the 3 3/4 stars. But it's the start of a feud, right? They don't have the same energy per se as maybe some of the other feuds that were inherent in here. But it keeps the faction feud going strong. It keeps some of these individual feuds moving forward. And we will see all of that continue to pay off at the pay-per-view. But you mentioned Neon Wings with Connor Cretin out here. And they are up against Parole on the Roll, a tag that doesn't actually have a lot of matches under their belt, despite the fact that I believe they've been around for a while, just kind of doing different things. I know Sebastian was at one point one of the trios champions.
Well, they still are the trios champions, and that's been the big thing. The big thing about Parole on the Roll is there's actually 3 of them, right? The Kingdom having Ryan Gill, Seb Ashton, and Bryce Sun. And ever since they won those tag team belts away from Eternum, away from Rick Dolan, Wesley Lee Morris, and Kenji Saber, they have mainly been in the trios division. They did have that lovely teardown of Xander's promotion a couple of months ago on one of the pay-per-views, but they don't do a lot of tag team stuff because they are in that trios division for the most part. They've been carrying that trios division, but they have wrestled Neon Wings once or twice, if I do remember correctly. They did already have a little bit of a feud going, and they have interacted a couple times in that trios division. Meanwhile, Neon Wings, they are the young up-and-comers. You really have to kind of think of them as young Matt and Jeff Hardy. Highly acrobatic, very good workers, lacking in the charisma department. They aren't really great on the mic. They aren't really great at kind of getting their characters across, which is why Connor Cretin, the leader of the lads, has decided to take them under his proverbial wing, and really try to help elevate them up to the next level. They have had a failed attempt at Hollywood Bound for those titles. They've been part of a couple of multi-tag team matches with Down Under and with Hollywood Bound for the titles, and this is really their shot to get another shot at those titles in a very straightforward way, and not have to jump through some sort of hoop or gimmick that Hollywood Bound may place in front of them if they want another match.
Yeah, you know me. I love Neon Wings. I think they're great. I think they're a very young, talented duo, and with Connor Cretin in their back pocket, I think that'll go a long way. It is one of those when, as soon as you add that third person, right, the win-loss record gets treated differently. So you're right, Parole on the Roll, because of a trio, certainly have a lot more experience than this number would indicate. The question is, does that experience pay off with a victory for them tonight, or do the lads strike back after the loss they just suffered in the last match?
The lads are going to strike back. Neon Wings are going to pick up the win here. Unfortunately for Parole on the Roll, trios and tag matches are slightly different. Connor Cretin is on the outside, but being the valiant babyface he is, he's not getting involved in Neon Wings' business. He's offering advice. He's shouting encouragement to them. Maybe, a couple of hey, look out behind you type things, but not getting physically involved. And unfortunately for Parole on the Roll, with Bryson not being out there, he's really the leader of that trio. He's kind of the guy that directs them, and they looked a little bit directionless here tonight as Neon Wings do pick up the win, and they will face Strong Style in the next round of the tournament.
Yeah, which I absolutely love. I'm glad that we get to see more lads versus Made in Japan in this event. I also love that match went hot. Not that either side of this duo needed the individual overness, but it made the feud hot as well, which means that feud's going to be a lot more captivating to audiences in the future. And I know you've been working on trying to get some of those feuds into the hype direction. So it's nice to see that pay off with a nice 4.25 star match here. But we move on to Down Under, the former champions of the tag division. Another very talented lads duo versus Pocket Rocket, who have absolutely been on the rise recently. Tell me, Walter, what brings these two teams that people probably think very highly of in an opening round match against each other?
Well, here's the thing. Pocket Rocket have been doing a lot on the most recent weeklies and last pay-per-view to really build their status and try to challenge Hollywood Bound for those tag team titles. Meanwhile, Down Under have sort of fallen apart since they lost those titles, have not been successful in any of the attempts to win them back, have had some moments where they've lost here on the weeklies and has been a little disheartened. And listen, at the end of the day, if Pocket Rocket wants to prove that they deserve those titles, they got to go through a team like Down Under. They did just beat them 2 weeks ago in a tables match on the weekly show. And, again, the seeding that happened on my end, Pocket Rocket right now is the number 3 seed on my bracket, and Down Under is down at 14. Maybe that's a little down. Maybe that's a little low for Down Under.
It's harsh.
I do think our bracketologists, a couple of these seedings, slightly weird, but at the end of the day, this is a great story, and it's a great opportunity for both of these teams to really prove who should be the next number 1 contender.
Yeah, this tears at my heart a little bit, because on the one hand, I want Down Under to prove you wrong. They were such a great tag for so long. Matt Militant, Sean Torres, both incredible wrestlers, both know how to put on a great show, and I want to see them succeed here. Unfortunately, I also really like Pocket Rocket, and of the 2 tags, I know Pocket Rocket is the one where you have a quest to get one of these people over into the main event before the end of next month. And so I feel like I know what button you're about to tell me to hit, but confirm that for me. Who's getting the W?
You would be correct, Chase. Pocket Rocket is going to get the victory here. I know this is going to be disappointing for Down Under. They were great, number 1, first champions in the company. But at this point, they got to work harder. I do feel like they've sort of fallen back on their laurels. They kind of expect that just because they were champions once, they're always going to be in this picture. And you know what? It might be this loss that finally convinces them they need to go back to the drawing board. They really need to figure out who they are, what they want to be, and how they're going to get back up to the top.
Yeah, well, what they're going to do right now is make another hot feud for you. Not that either one of these sides needed the overness, but certainly the morale is nice. I think Down Under, they were taking some of those losses a little personally. They've certainly struggled a little bit to keep their morale up in the wake of this slide they've been on. But you're right. This is motivation, right? You put this as bulletin board material. We need to beat teams like Pocket Rocket. We need to get back to the team that was able to reign over the tag division and do so with numerous defenses, not just at pay-per-views, but at weeklies, week in, week out. And I hope Down Under get there. But for now, I am happy for Pocket Rocket. I like this duo. I like what the Ace brothers have been up to. And I look forward to seeing how far they can go. But their opponent in the next round is coming up right here with AR60 versus the Scribners. Now, the Scribners, they're one of those tags on paper has very much struggled to cement themselves in this company. I don't think they have a win, certainly not as this tag duo, but I don't think they even have a lot of wins when you expand out to the larger Scribner family. But AR60 have also been a little bit up and down recently. What are you hoping to see from both of these teams tonight?
AR60 has been a little bit stronger than I think you would be willing to remember. They've been a key part of Eternum's minor successes that they had against Short in the Civil War. They've beaten the Killers a couple of times, one of those times to get the stipulation match for the 4v4 Steel Cell match that they had against each other. On the other side, the Scribners, they have also won some matches when, bulking out the entire family. They've won a couple of trios matches with Colton kind of leading them them. There was a 4v4 match against a tournament, I believe, where Cobra Gaston was also included as a member of their family. Unfortunately, again, it's very similar to Parole on the Roll. They just haven't had a lot of success when they're on their own. The difference here, Livia Scribner is out there kind of encouraging them, cheering them on. But we have seen in the past that Livia, she is critical of her brothers, all of them, right? And she is very kind of condescending to them and is expecting better of them despite her own lack of success as a wrestler. But maybe tonight is the time that change. Maybe it's time for the Scribners to go on a little run here to prove that they are just as good as a tag team like AR60 that is sitting very comfortably kind of in the middle of the pack in the company.
I mean, this is their moment, right? If you want to prove that you, Anthony and Jace, are a force to be reckoned with, that you are not just riding the coattails of people like Colton Scribner, like Cobra Gaston, this is your moment. But you're right, we have seen those peaks from AR60. The question is AR60 on top of their game, or do the Scribners catch them sleeping?
This is going to be an AR60 victory. The Scribners do not have what it takes. It is disappointing for me because I do think the Scribners are better than this. I feel like I've given them some pretty decent opportunities, and unfortunately they just keep coming up short in those opportunities. Meanwhile, AR60 continues to take the ball whenever I put it in their hands and be extremely successful.
And speaking of success, this is what you want to see. It's our first holy shit moment of the night. Algenico slapping the taste out of Jay Scribner's mouth before they both started brawling. That's 30 creativity points, which, given that tournaments are expensive, it's 150 creativity points just to start one of these. Every holy shit moment does count, and you do get credits at the end based on the overall score as if this were a weekly show. So every little bit counts at a 4 3/4 star match. Plenty of intensity. This is AR60 making a statement tonight, and they're going to be quite a force to be reckoned with for Pocket Rocket. So people are going to have to keep an eye out for that. But we have 2 more opening round matches left, and we have my boy Chase and Eat Our Dust with Axel Dust against the new Gaston brothers, which are the one new tag team I'm most fascinated to hear about, because we just talked about the success Colton and Cobra have had, and the two of them together seem like a force to be reckoned with.
Yes, that is correct. Like I said, we are looking at some adding new tag teams to get up here to 16. Obviously, Eat Our Dust has had their moments with the Scribners, defeating them on a weekly show not too long ago, honestly, just a couple of days ago. And when I was calling around, I called the Scribners. I called Livia Scribner, and I said, hey, do Colton and Cobra, like, they've been getting along pretty well when they fought. Do they want to tag team in this tournament? He said, hang on 1 second, let me call you back. I got a call back probably 10, 15 minutes later, and she said, yes, but we have a demand. We want our first round opponents to be Eat Our Dust. And I said, listen, I'll get back to you. You know, I'll take a look at the bracket. I would still love to have you if that's not the case. Looking at the seeding, looking at how everyone performs, it did make sense. Eat Our Dust is still a relatively new tag team. They have failed at their one attempt already at the belts. It seemed like a good opportunity here to go ahead and throw the new Gaston brothers against Eat Our Dust, especially given the rivalry that's already slowly starting between Eat Our Dust and the Scribners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great matchup because you're right. Look, Eat Our Dust, it says 1-0, but it doesn't include the matches that they fought before they became a formal tag team. And ultimately, they do need to prove themselves here. And to be quite honest with you, as a Chase fan, I kind of hope they lose, because otherwise Chase's stamina is going to get a little scarily high for my blood before he's supposed to wrestle against Ethan Wilde at the pay-per-view. So I'm rooting against Chase, which feels a little surreal, but it is the position that I find myself in. Who is getting the win here?
Well, Chase, don't worry. I got your back. Can you do me a favor here? Can you add a finish?
Of course I can. What finish would you like?
Because there's going to be a distraction.
Okay.
From good old Ethan Wilde.
Oh, hell yeah. And that's going to give the Gaston brothers the win, I imagine?
That'll give the new Gaston brothers, please say it
The
correctly, a
new
win.
Gaston brothers. My apology. And look, it's a 4.25-star match. This is what you want from a distraction, right? Because the good psychology boosted it back up. It was basically just like a fresh roll of the dice. And yeah, the new Gaston brothers taking advantage of Ethan Wild getting ready to mess with his new opponent, Chase. You love to see it, honestly.
I do love to see it. And Chase, I know that Chase winning the Open Challenge was not your fault. I know you didn't rig it, and that's why I'm not making Chase versus Ethan Wild a squash match. That does feel a little unfair.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I've said this before with Chase off this recording and on this recording. I'm just happy to be in it, man. I'm just happy that Chase gets to be a part of the cool stuff that's going on, and I feel like this is a perfect place for him to be, right? He's not going to move forward in this tag tournament. Sorry, Axel Dust, but I am very excited to see what you do with that new narrative beat you've been given, because Chase versus Ethan Wild, that is a high-ranking, high-skill face, and Ethan Wild does need a competitor for that belt. I'm so curious what that ends up looking like. But for now, we move on. The new Gaston brothers, to be very clear, are moving on. And we have our last match in the round of 16, Prodigious versus Kingdom Come. Now, I think people know Prodigious, though if you haven't been following all of the weeklies, you may be surprised to know they are faces now after a moving segment from Tyson Morriso. But Kingdom Come are brand new here and a neutral faction, thanks to face Jules Murphy and heel Drew King, which has kind of been a former feud turned into something beautiful, you could say. I mean, how did this all come together?
I wouldn't say that it's something beautiful. I don't think Jules Murphy in any way thinks it's something beautiful, and I think Drew King thinks that it's good business sense. The arc of their feud was Drew King insisting to Jules Murphy he should join the Kingdom because the lads were not offering Jules Murphy the opportunities that he should be getting. Unfortunately, Jules Murphy did lose that feud. He has joined the Kingdom, and out of that, he has gotten 2 world title shots against Christopher Devlin, and possibly could have had a third if not for Ethan Wild's attack on his eventual opponent, Daniel Stevenson. That has now led to an Eternum and the Kingdom elimination match of sorts at the Harold G. Vincent Cup, where the winner of that will then go on to face Christopher Devlin in the main event, Daniel Stevenson if a member of Eternum wins, or Jules Murphy if a member of the Kingdom wins. In the meantime, Drew King had a great idea. Jules, they're looking for another tag team. I know we've got, Parole on the Roll on one side of the bracket, but we could come in on the other side of a bracket, and we could potentially earn not just 1 title shot, but 2 title shots at the Cup. And, Jules is like, listen, Drew, maybe I should be resting up. Maybe I should probably not try and go into a dangerous tournament where maybe I have to win 3 or 4 matches in one night. It doesn't seem like it's worth the risk. Drew King, very insistent, says, listen, you got to trust me, right? I've gotten you this far so far. Believe in me. We can do this. And for the first time, it has seen like Jules Murphy realizes that, maybe Drew King does have my better interests at heart, right? Maybe he is looking at this as a friend, and maybe this never was some insidious plot to get me to win the belt and then steal it from me or anything like that. Maybe he did see that I was languishing on the lads. Right now, if you look at it, the lads had 6 different competitors so far in this tournament, and Jules goes, I wouldn't have been, right? It wouldn't have been me and Craig. I'm not Irish. It wouldn't have been me and Connor. He's working with Neon Wings, and Down Under's their own tag team. I would have been left on the sideline, so maybe I should take this opportunity with Drew King and run with it.
Well, and that to me, I think, is why I look at this. Maybe a feel-good story is going a bit too far, but this is like a promise fulfilled, right? Jules didn't want to be here. He did not believe that the Kingdom had his best interest at heart. He wasn't interested in leaving. But since then, Drew King has made good on his promises. He has gotten those big opportunities. The question is that enough to overcome Prodigious, who are maybe the win-loss record here does not fully reflect some of the success they've had as Prodigy as a faction before, and certainly with someone like Tyler Dynamite now, helping them train, helping them learn the skills that he built back when he was in Dominatus Tenebris. I have to imagine Prodigious have a power-up of their own. The question is, which power is coming out on top here?
Well, Chase, if I told you Prodigious was the number 2 seed based on our bracketology, do you think Kingdom Come is winning?
I don't think Kingdom Come is winning.
You would be correct. Prodigious is going to take the victory here.
Fantastic. It's a little bit of an overness hit for Kingdom Come. They had plenty to lose. The important thing, it's a 4 3/4 star match. Great form from both of these competitors, which is no surprise, really. I mean, you look at, everyone here is a 4 work rate wrestler. You do get your second holy shit moment of the night. Jordan Wolf hitting Jules Murphy with a lariat that knocked his head off. That's another 30 creativity points, and one of your highest ranking matches of the night for sure. Got to be feeling good with that result, and Prodigious have to be feeling good. They were not initially faces, and perhaps this is them in a new skin, a new outlook on life, and it seems to be going well for them so far.
Prodigious has been there in multiple title matches. Jordan Wolf and D'Angelo Starr have been inches away, perhaps, from being the tag team champions. And every time they failed, they impressed me so much that every time they came to me and they said, give us another shot, I believed in them and I gave them another shot. And when they came to me when the tag team tournament was announced months ago, they said, listen, we don't know what's going to happen up until that moment, but if we're a tag team, if we're standing, we deserve to be in that tournament. I said, guys, you were already on the list. Don't worry about it. Just keep on doing what you're doing. And I do think them turning babyface to help out Tyler Dynamite was a massive decision on their part.
Absolutely. But now it's time to move on to some massive matches. This is the quarterfinals. Hollywood Bound and the Killers. I have no idea why this is listed as 0 hype, because I'm hype for this match. We have our champions versus the Killers, who, as you pointed out earlier, are definitely on an upswing. I mean, what should people be looking out for in this match?
Well, the first thing is, if you're keeping track with their brackets at home, this is a heel versus heel match. This is the only, alignment versus alignment that are on the same side out of all of the quarterfinal matches. And listen, the Killers have struggled a little bit in the tag team division, right? When they've come up against AR-60, they had some struggles. Otherwise, they've been feasting on competition like the Profits or Baja Lucha, where meanwhile, Hollywood Bound has been at the top of the mountain the entire time. Even when Down Under held the titles, they were there lurking in the shadows, waiting for their opportunity to pounce, whereas the Killers have really not been kind of in that echelon. This would be a great opportunity for the Killers to prove that they do have that killer edge, that they were the correct choice for Ethan Wilde to join short instead of AR-60, while Hollywood Bound, they're happy they have a little bit better competition than the catering crew.
I mean, that's absolutely sure. I mean, look, Hollywood Bound are on a 7-match win streak. I know that titles do not switch hands in tournaments, so it's not like Hollywood Bound are fighting to cling to that belt. But you mentioned earlier in this broadcast, right? There's so much of an advantage you get if you win this for yourself. The ability to choose your opponent, to choose your stipulation, have full control over how things shake out at Winter Zone, not to mention an insurance policy in case something happens between now and Winter Zone. Hollywood Bound are going to be giving it their all. The Killers always give it their all. The question is, who's taking the W?
This is going to continue to be Hollywood Bound's tournament. I do think one of the things that Hollywood Bound has sort of struggled with is proving that they are better than a vast majority of the roster. They've really kind of been, highlighted mainly with Down Under and with Neon Wings. They've had a couple of multi-tag matches that Prodigious have been in, but at the end of the day, it's really about them proving they are better than everyone else on the roster.
Well, and they certainly had quite the nice moment here. Cairo Oliver suplexing Legend Killer onto the apron. That's another 30 creativity points. And if this card scores as well as I think it is going to from the consistent 4 and above star matches we've had since after those first couple, I think you're going to get back everything you invested into this tournament, which is great because you still have a gold pay-per-view to prep after this is done. And I as someone who has seen how low the reserves are for all of your competitors, I'm sure you're going to be very happy to have that. But Hollywood Bound, they don't care about your creativity points. They just care about proving themselves, and they do it again against a team as fierce as the Killers, and they got to be feeling damn good about that.
I can confirm Cairo Oliver coming backstage, hooting and hollering, saying there's nobody here that's on our level. We are going to the moon.
To the moon they go. But the lads, made in Japan, it is another match between these two. We saw Strong Style already take out the Irish lads, and we saw Neon Wings taking out Parole on a roll. I mean, these are teams that I don't believe have wrestled each other head-to-head before, but Strong Style has looked so strong since Shohei Hirano's return. What is it going to take for Neon Wings with Connor Creedon in their corner to overcome Strong Style, who have their own manager in Talia in their with them for this match?
So surprisingly enough, they have fought each other once. They fought each other a couple of weeks ago at a weekly show. That is when Craig Opley returned he attacked Kenji Saber backstage. Other than that, I don't know if they've been involved with each other beyond that. Maybe in a promo or something else. But at this point, this is more about the larger feud that's happening between Made in Japan and the lads. Obviously, Strong Style and Neon Wings, upper kind of mid-card tag teams, both tag teams that really could potentially be tag team champions. And, maybe this match is more about disabling the other competitor for that steel cell match, as we learned earlier in the card, that Craig Opley said is going to be happening at the Cup anyways.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the fatigue starts to set in the deeper you go into this tournament. And when you have a match like this, it's not just about winning. It's about inflicting some hurt, right? It's about making them wake up sore the next day and regret that they have to meet you again in a steel cage match. The question is, which of these two teams filled with 4-star workers is getting the nod?
This is going to be Neon Wings. They will get revenge for the Irish lads. They will put Strong Style in their place. Strong Style has only had a couple of matches since Shohei Hirano returned from injury. Meanwhile, Neon Wings has been up at the top end of the tag team division for months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love to see it, man. I mean, look, I've been a Neon Wings stan for a while now. I think that they can, especially with someone like Connor Creedon on the mic, they have a great level of potential. And most importantly, this puts them in a semifinals match against Hollywood Bound, against the champions. And I got to tell you, they have a lot of reasons to hate Hollywood Bound. They were competing for a title shot before Hollywood Bound interfered, took over the belt, and never looked back. And I am sure Neon Wings are hungry to get revenge for what should have been their opportunity had everything gone according to what was planned out there. So I can't wait to see that grudge match play itself out at the pay-per-view.
I can't wait to see it either. You couldn't write it any better than this. Hollywood Bound versus Neon Wings.
Absolutely. Well, we do have another heel versus heel matchup in our quarterfinals here. Pocket Rocket versus AR-60. Pocket Rocket have been on the rise recently. It's been very fun to watch. AR-60, as you mentioned, the parts of Eternum that have stepped up when they have been called upon. I mean, what are you looking out for in this match?
I keep forgetting AR-60 technically are classified as heels. I in my notes I have them as a neutral faction. But that being said, this is going to be a really hard-hitting match. This is probably going to be very similar to Pocket Rocket versus Down Under. All three of these teams, they're heavy hitters, right? They're not aerial assassins. They are bruisers. They are guys that are going to wallop you with left and rights, with power moves, with body slams, with things like that. And they're going to try and bust you open, right? They're going to try and make you work really, really hard, and it's going to take a while for you to get that win. These are guys that if you put them in Iron Man matches, they are going that full 60 minutes, full tilt. There is not going to be much resting from either of them. And I'm really excited to see what these four men can do.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a match between two tags that have had a lot of experience in the ring, even if neither have held the belt during the competition so far, right? There were no injuries that held back some of these teams. They're not one of the new tags that was made for this. They have experience. They know what each other is capable of. The question is, which one is going to emerge victorious here?
This is going to be Pocket Rocket's victory. They continue to climb the card. A beautiful 5-star match from these four gentlemen. And, if you asked me coming into this, who did I think was the biggest challenger to Hollywood Bound's reign, I would say it was Pocket Rocket. They've been doing very, very well over these last few months, especially once I sort of took the reins off of them and remembered they were there and needed to get some victories.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a hot match. It's a great start. Or no, they already had a few. That was the last one that was referencing. But I mean, look, a 5-star match, good psychology. The fans are in. And it's, I love seeing, just popularity boost for each one, but I love seeing Pocket Rocket continue to climb step by step, bit by bit. They are proving themselves to be a force to be reckoned with. But they're going to have one heck of a competitor in the semifinals at the Harold G. Vincent Memorial Cup, because they're going up against either the new Gaston brothers, who are as far as the new tags go, the one that I am most terrified of, given how strong Cobra has been and given how good Colton has looked in recent matches, versus Prodigious, who, according to this, are 102% over at the moment, which I have to imagine that's a bug, but it's really funny, so let's just accept that that is true. They are more over than it is capable to be over at this time, and with good reason. They've put on some incredible matches. I mean, who do you think should have the edge? Before you tell me who wins, how do you possibly have a favorite between two incredible singles performers and two tag members who have been working together so well over the past few months?
I mean, the smart money goes, you go with the tag team that has existed since the beginning of the company, right? They have been a tag team. They have been a trio when you throw in Devontae Harrell. They have had Tyson Morriso in their back pocket the entire time, and now adding in Tyler Dynamite into Prodigy. It's just some really great-minded wrestlers. They're very gifted wrestlers. They're very smart wrestlers. They know how to do tag teams. And like I said, they have been probably fingertips away from tag team championship gold in a bunch of those multi-man matches. And every time they ask for an opportunity, it's not, hey, can you just put us in a title match? It's, can we earn a shot to face the titles? Meanwhile, I love Cobra Gaston. I'm not going to lie. Ever since that moment that I was given a quest in the video game, very week one, put him in, win that battle royale, right? Win that Theodore Vincent Heritage title. He has been one of my favorite wrestlers to use as a player, and he's also been one of my favorite wrestlers to deal with as a booker. He shows up, he has great ideas, he has interesting ideas, he is willing to put his blood on the line to show everybody exactly who he is, and that he deserves to be in that same conversation as, just top tier champions like Christopher Devlin, like Empress Kabuki. And he was furious that we sent Tyler Dynamite to the Invitational Tournament instead of him. He really thought that was his shot. And ever since he's had this new look, ever since he's fully embraced that he is a member of the Scribner family and turned his back on his Gaston family, even going so far as to call his new tag team the New Gaston Brothers. I don't know what more you could ask from this man other than please let Colton Scribner lay on his back and let Prodigious get a win here, because this tag team tournament is not about the Scribner family. It's about Prodigious.
Yeah, look, man, if anyone cared about Viper Gaston, that would be such an insult. But I love what Cobra Gaston has done. I love what you've done with his reign. He has been a force in this company. But so has Prodigious in their own way, just for sheer force of will, powering them through week in, week out. So I have to ask, with everything you just said, who is getting the win?
It is going to be Prodigious. It is going to be the experience as a tag team over arguably one of my favorite wrestlers here in the SWA.
Wow, that is crazy. Oh, okay. That has to be them figuring out the bug, because the Prodigious should not have been at 102%. I've never seen someone lose overness from winning a match before, so I have to imagine that's just settling what was them being too over at the moment. The Gaston brothers, they lose a point, but who cares? They're going to be just fine.
The new Gaston brothers.
Oh, actually, never mind. That is a little bit of a problem. Colton Gaston is no longer over with the fans, because Cobra was at 100, Colton was at 80. So that's a little bit of a bummer. But certainly something that can be fixed in just one match, and something that I'm sure he will look to prove himself on sooner rather than later. But that does mean we know what our semifinals are going to be. It's going to be Hollywood Bound versus Neon Wings. It is going to be Pocket Rocket versus Prodigious. And the winner of those matches will compete in a final match to determine who gets that contract for Winter Zone. You got a 4.5-star card here, Walter. I don't know exactly how that fits into our scoring system. It's a great card, and I feel like there should be something for you. But obviously, it's a little bit unconventional. We'll have to talk about that off camera. But for now, how do you feel about how this tournament shook out?
I'm a little disappointed that this game continues to fucking bully me. And this is, hey, there we go. I get another holy shit moment, which fuck you, Xander. Yeah. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Look, this is their apology for Colton Scribner needing an extra percentage. It's like, look.
Right, but that's the point, right? Like, that's the thing that makes me angry. Like, why? Why? Like, that's a pure low roll when I have 4 amazing competitors in the ring, and it's like, it's like 4.25 star, and you lose an overness on one of your wrestlers, and now they're no longer over with the fans. Like, fuck you, game. Come on. I'm trying shit here. I'm not just min-maxing and putting gimmick matches in every single fucking match. And, oh, by the way, I got 4 holy shit moments and not a single gimmick match. So, fuck all of you.
4 holy shit moments, 4.5 stars, that more than pays for your card. You actually got a surplus of creativity points after doing this tournament, which I would take as a win. I know.
And there's still 3 more matches.
And it's still 3 more matches. And those will be 3 of the 14 matches that will be at this next pay-per-view, because it is a gold pay-per-view. So real quick, before we head out for plugs, do you want to just shout out any of the other matches that fans should be looking forward to at Stanford Wrestling Alliance's Harold G. Vincent Memorial Cup on Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, when we come back to play out the full gold pay-per-view you have planned?
Obviously, the lads versus Made in Japan inside the steel cell, that is going to be huge, especially with Neon Wings having to have their semifinals match here. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to use them in that cage match, so maybe it's only going to be a 3-on-3 match instead of a 4-on-4. Chase versus Ethan Wild. Ethan Wild continuing his dastardly ways of getting into his opponent's business, attacking them when they least expect it. Angelina Cardinal getting another shot at Empress Kabuki. Maester Gomez getting another shot at Brooklyn Cambril. And obviously the saga of Daniel Stevenson and Jules Murphy. Which one of their factions will send them to the main event versus Christopher Devlin? And just for Chase, Kevin Bates versus Cobra Gaston. I mean, I'm sure Cobra's going to be furious after this, getting knocked out in the quarterfinals instead of maybe being in the semis or even the finals. I am sure he's going to be looking for someone to take his aggression out on.
Yeah, look, I will pour one out for Kevin Bates, but for now, I'm going to tell everyone that they should follow you on the social medias. Where can they find you, Walter?
You guys can find me at C80s_LOL on Twitter and at C80s.bsky.social on Blue Sky.
Absolutely. You can find me at Chase Wassenaar on B-Sky. And of course, follow the podcast at Rough Drafts Podcast on Blue Sky. We just did an awesome episode on Dune with our friend Justin. So if you want to go check that out, it was a really interesting time. Not everyone enjoyed the film, but the people who did have a lot of knowledge from the book series themselves. So if you want to get a very interesting back and forth take, definitely check that out. And do come back to twitch.tv/RedShirtKing on Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, where we will see the Campeonato de Luchasaur, Glory of Legends, Magically Enhanced Wrestling, and the Stanford Wrestling Alliance go toe-to-toe. And I gotta tell you, having seen 3 of the 4 cards already, we are in for one hell of a night. Is 6 stars possible? We're gonna find out. But until then, goodbye, Internet.